think it was very interesting. Each of our speakers had a different perspective. One was one region, many languages. One was one language, many regions, and one was the tools and techniques. But all of them did raise one common thread, I think, and it was about collaboration. And I think in terms of the EBRAM project, like Javier said, it's certainly not just a technical translation project. It's much more than that. And I think there are many opportunities for all of you there to view translations in that light, that it can give enhanced opportunities for collaboration, which in the end up improving the process. I'd like to summarize by presenting what I call a 5-phased model that I call the virtuous translation circle. It consists of 5 phases, the first one being prepare your approach, liaise with IFAC. So read the IFAC policy statements, submit a permission request via our online permission request and inquiry system, and enter into an appropriate agreement with IFAC. By liaising with IFAC, we can assist you in a number of ways. We can help you identify the important roles that need to be filled. We can help ensure that you have a process that is in compliance with the IFAC policy statement. We can advise you on perhaps funding opportunities, because we have experience from translations into various language where they've been able to secure funding from in various ways. We can help you anticipate your publication and distribution needs and provide examples from other translations and other languages. And we, in that way, help ensure that you have a sustainable translation process, which was also brought up by our speakers, the importance of working together, the importance of employing translation memory or CAT tools to help make sure that the process is sustainable. And while we're not working to commercialize in a sense, it is important with funding to ensure the sustainability of the process. We can provide you with resources. There are resources on our website. We have frequently asked questions. We have translation memories for certain languages. We have the translations database, and recently the formatting guidelines that are available here in the front after the session. We can also we'll provide you with the original source files in Word. One of the problems that we've experienced is that people have simply downloaded a PDF version from the website and proceeded to translate. This is problematic for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's not an authorized translation unless you receive the source files directly from my department. And the other thing is that it makes it much more difficult, because working with PDFs, they may be in a locked format, or they may be in a format that's difficult to import into your CAT tools. And we'll provide you with the editable Word versions, the original, final, correct, and authorized source files, as well as artwork, cover artwork for handbooks and for individual standards and individual publications, and logos as appropriate. We can answer questions on technical terminology. Maybe someone has asked the same question before, and we keep a log of the questions that come in and can assist you in that way. We will perform a pre-publication review of your translation, and while we do not have the resources or the competence to ensure the correct translation into 45 languages in IFAC, we will review it to ensure appropriate presentation, that the copyright acknowledgments and so on are appropriate, and assist in any way possible. And finally, we can leverage IFAC's communications channels, and this includes the translations database, it includes e-news, it includes press releases, and it includes IFAC's social media channels, which are, for example, Twitter and LinkedIn. And like Maria Rita presented to you, we now have launched the LinkedIn IFAC Translator Forum, and invite all of you to join. Please send me an email, or send an email to permissions@ifac.org. You'll find it on our website, and we'd love to have you participate in the Translator Forum, I think it can be a very useful tool for those that are performing translations of the international standards and IFAC publications. Second phase, ensure effective collaboration. So identify and involve the interested parties and key stakeholders who share the same need or can benefit from collaborations. And this was Javier's example, where the motto of the IBERAM project is, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that was Aristotle, by the way. Perform a quality translation, and this is Maria Rita's example. One of the most important things is actually before you start translating, agree and maintain a list of key terms. Leverage technology, use translation memory software, and use an appropriately qualified translator performing a faithful and high-quality translation. Perform a quality review, keeping in mind Hilda's comments, especially about the need to engage expert reviewers. This helps ensure the wide acceptability of a single high-quality and faithful translation. You need to involve the key stakeholders, but at the same time, keep your review committee to a manageable size to make it effective. And willingness to compromise is important. And I enjoyed Javier's comment that in the IBERAM project, while the terms of reference speak about each member having a vote and the votes need to be unanimous, like he said, through the empathy that's expressed by the parties involved, we really never vote. We already have agreement. It's quite an achievement. But in reaching compromise, you need to establish a clear process to deal with any comments or differences. So how would those be addressed and what is a good way forward? And for multi-jurisdictional languages, establish criteria for dealing with differences. For example, through the use of translators' footnotes or similar. And there are various techniques to find a way forward, even though there may be different terms employed in different countries that speak the same language. Certainly 20 years ago, let's say, there were different English language versions of the international standards on auditing, what are now the ICES. Versions coming out of the United States, out of the UK, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. And now, in the case of IFRS, for example, there's one single version. And while each of those could understand one another in the different countries, the terminology was different. Accounts receivable in one country was debtors in another country. Accounts payable in one was creditors. One was inventories, the other stocks. Naturally, we understood, but now we have a single terminology. And finally, consider the public exposure of the translation in order to gain broader acceptability. And many of our designated translating bodies, they do put the translations out for public exposure for 30 or 60 days, just to make sure that those that were not directly involved in the process through translation or review actually have the opportunity to comment and provide input to make sure that that translation is widely acceptable. And finally, in order to complete the virtuous translation circle, assess feedback from users and other interested parties. Evaluate experiences in order to improve the process, because the process is not entirely static. Although you've performed the translation, you do want to incorporate clarifications and improvements where needed, with the goal being a single, faithful, high quality, widely acceptable, and sustainable translation to facilitate global adoption and implementation of the international standards in the public interest. IFAC's Intellectual Property Translations and Permissions Department, we are here to assist you, and we do this in a number of ways, as you can see here. I would like to say on behalf of my fellow speakers, thank you, grazie, for your kind attention.